And they brought on a bunch of care packages. Like, hey, a bunch of kids sent us stuff. I'm like, cool. Open it, and it's like a cardboard cutout of a soldier or a paper cutout of a soldier.
Sure.
With glitter and shit. And then we get these letters. It's like, I hope you kill all the bad guys.
But seriously, like, what are you going to write to? What are you going to, like, as a, like, put it in their perspective, like a 7 or 8 year old kid. What are you going to write to this guy? Like, I hope you get home safe.
Well, some of them were like, I hope you blow the whole place up. It's like, fuck, kid. It's just straight savage. Like, so you might as well just say, turn the nation to glass. It's
oh my gosh.
There's like no filter, and it was like we were so happy. Not receiving letters from kids is cool, but the shit that they would say was like watching a stand-up routine.
Yeah.
And we would be like, "Oh, we got one," and we'd read it off, and everybody would just bust out laughing and stuff. Like it was cool as shit. But back to the care packages, my wife, I love peanut butter M&Ms, the red bag. My wife would send me some. By the time I got it, it was a peanut butter bar.
Right.
Because it was all melted together. So at least I still got a peanut butter M&M bar.
So to this day, I'm pretty sure my mom ended up getting me my Navy Achievement Medal. Okay? I'll tell you about this. So when I was in the company office, like I have my company commander who is an 03 captain, then we got the first sergeant, E8, and then we've got the company guns, and then we got the training NCO, and then there's myself. Like I'm the peon on the bottom of the totem pole. My mom, she did a whole bunch of research and found that you can ship glass jars. And so what she did was she'd get the glass jars that seal, and she'd put brownies in the glass jar, like all this candy. And then for my birthday, because I'm a huge fan of carrot cake, all right, it's my favorite dessert, she would send homemade carrot cake in these glass jars. But the problem was she didn't send some just for me. She sent some for the whole office. So I'd get like 6 or 8 of these glass jars. Like, here you go, First Sergeant. Here you go, ma'am. You know, here you go, Staff Sergeant. It's all you. So I'd get that shit all the time. And then probably, like, the real thing that really was the icing on the cake, because we were over there during Easter. You know, at the time, my captain, she was a health nut.
Oh, that's right. Your deployments aren't a year, right?
No, 6 months.
Okay.
6 months.
Army's was a year. So whenever you're like, oh, yeah, we were there for Easter, I'm like, isn't everybody?
No.
Like I deployed on February 22nd, and I came back February 22nd. So
no. So yeah, we left January, and then I got back. I think it was August, maybe. I think it was August. But so I was deployed over Easter, and I had this captain. She was a health nut, and my mom ended up sending like a whole bunch of these Easter bunnies, right, in my care package, and then she ended up sealing them up and everything else.
How did she prevent them from melting?
Mother's love. Mother's witchcraft. But the captain ended up getting like this super dark chocolate Easter bunny, and I'm still convinced to this day that that's what got me my Navy Achievement Medal was my mother.
Yeah, no, I got push-ups because they would send me shit in basic, so in basic if they got
you couldn't get shit in basic. Yeah.
If you got a letter, because you could only write and receive letters, you couldn't receive packages, right?
Yeah.
So they'd call out a name, and you'd have to give them 10 push-ups to get your mail.
Oh.
Like we had to pay for our mail with push-ups.
We had a guy that got an Army Strong sticker put on his mail.
So
like literally when you go read it,
his family was trolling the fuck out of him.
His recruiter did it to him. That dirty dog.
My recruiter didn't give a fuck about
literally. So you got the letter, and he showed it to all of us, and it's got the Army Strong sticker right there on front. Like, oh my god! He was no longer. His name was Armstrong. I can't even tell you what his real name is. His name was Armstrong after that. Recruit Armstrong. Oh, sir!
Was his name Armstrong?
No, I have no idea.
Because that would make sense.
I can't remember. It doesn't matter anymore.
My recruiter didn't give a fuck about none of them. I remember their names. I'm not going to say it because I care. Unlike those two fucks.
I think Staff Sergeant Long sent me something. Maybe he sent me a letter. I can't remember.
No, my recruiter didn't give me shit besides a hard fucking time. Like, they were nice as shit.
Yeah.
Whenever I signed my contract and I'm waiting on my ship out date, like I signed for my MOS and everything, I'm just waiting for them to say, okay, basic's open, we're going to send you.
Yeah.
That joyride home, or fucking joy I use loosely, coming back home, my recruiter just talked shit to me the whole fucking way because I didn't get the MOS I wanted. I ended up going with truck driver.
Gotcha.
He's like, that's my MOS, you piece of shit. You're going to fucking learn. I'm like, wow, fuck you,
You're not
dude.
good enough for my MOS, that kind of shit.
Yeah, well, I signed the contract, and now that I'm locked in to fucking go, I'm just a number to him. He got his recruit, and now it's an inconvenience because he has to drive me home. And he was supposed to stop and get me food. I didn't even know recruiters were supposed to buy you food. No, he would pick me up, take me to
they get an allowance for it, yeah.
Well, I didn't get any fucking food. Like, all I got was a fucking hard time. Like, thank God at the MEP station, cool. MEP station put out these little finger sandwiches. So I was able to eat that way. Yeah. Besides that, I was like, fuck, how am I going to eat? I don't have money. I'm like 19 years old.
Yeah.
But, oh well. That's why I don't give them any recognition. I don't say their fucking name.
But I will tell you this. So one of the craziest experiences I had over there is, like, I do convoys and I do flight missions. Well, every now and then they would need an escort for some kind of shenanigans that happened at one of the FOBs.
This is not to be confused with the escort you pay for Happy Time money.
No, definitely not. So what ends up happening is, like, you get a commission officer and he has to investigate something, like whether it's like sexual assault or
like CID type shit.
Maybe, and then there's like theft and like any kind of investigation where a commission officer has to get involved. Okay.
So ours was CID. Was it Criminal Investigation Department or? I can't remember what the fucking acronym stands for.
Well, the thing is...
But it's kind of like the plainclothes police for the military.
Well, the thing is in the Marine Corps, especially when we're out deployed, any commissioned officer can go do that, period. So at the time, our platoon commander had to go to FOB Edinburgh, and so he had to take an escort with him. Okay, so Roger up, off I go, not, whatever.
Yeah, the battle buddy system.
Sure, exactly. But it was 4th of July weekend.
Fuck!
Okay, so things were going nuts at FOB Edinburgh. All right, not so much for the Marine Corps, but the Army was going ham.
Yeah, right? We're having Independence Day in a foreign nation. We don't give a fuck. We're celebrating our independence from the British. Kiss our ass.
Well, so at FOB Edinburgh they had a chow hall, but the Marines weren't allowed at the chow hall. Okay,
what the fuck, did they feed y'all scraps out of the dumpster?
Well, we would eat MREs. They ate MREs every day of the week
at a base.
So. At a FOB.
FOB is Fort Operating Base. It's dirt castle, pretty much. Sure. Like sandbag castle.
So, anyways, they wouldn't allow the Marines in the chow hall. So we tactically acquired some steaks out of the back of their 5-ton and ended up cooking these steaks on a grill made out of tinfoil.
You know what?
Tasting steaks ever, but man, it just screamed Independence Day.
This is an army defect. I forgive you. That's some bullshit.
Oh my god,
that's straight some bullshit.
Yeah, we felt really accomplished.
I always felt like shit when the Air Force did that to us because the Air Force had their own defect, and we had a separate defect for the Army. It's like, eat you lily pigs. So I always thought that was bullshit.
Well, if you end up. So as a Marine, if you end up deploying from the Pacific Coast, you have to go through Kyrgyzstan. I think it's Manas Air Force Base.
Why does it always end in Stan?
I don't know. And the Air Force runs this base. Okay, I've never in my life been in an Air Force chow hall before, let alone one all the way in frickin' Kyrgyzstan.
I've been through some.
Let me tell you something right now. The Kyrgyzstan chow hall, the one where it's got 100 airmen at it, beats the shit out of any 29 Palms chow hall that has 10,000 Marines on. They got full-size candy bars. Full-size candy bars. I felt like a kid in Halloween. Like, are you kidding? There's a whole table of like Hershey's and Crunch and Reese's, and it's not like the little bite size. No, it is full-size candy bars. So we have to go back through Kyrgyzstan on the way back to Okinawa. Okay, and we had to stay there for like 3 or 4 days because a forklift went through our airplane or whatever the case may be. I know.
Hold on.
But so here's the real kicker. Okay, so it was at the time when the Hunger Games came out in theaters.
You're like, oh, they made a documentary about the Marines.
The very first Hunger Games had come out in theaters, and I mean it was it had just come out in theaters. So the base colonel, like the Air Force colonel, ends up coming out and has a theater day where everyone on base gets to watch the Hunger Games because we got it at the same time the movie theaters did. I'm like, this is some bullshit. My battalion commander is like shaking his boots right now, like, the whole base is shut down because of this movie? No!
The Air Force defects. Yes, Air Force.
It is a whole nother beast.
It's like a fucking restaurant, and it's government ran.
Oh my god!
But what blew my mind was they had actual milk instead of the fucking powdered milk.
Yeah.
And they had real cheesecake.
Yeah.
Fucking chocolate cheesecake in the middle of a desert. I'm like, these motherfuckers got it made.
Well, it's so interesting because, like, so in a Marine Corps chow hall, and this was explained to me.
You know what? Hold on.
Yeah.
The man behind the camera is Air Force. Here. I'm going to step out. This motherfucker can come here.
For what?
Now you're going to fucking attest to this. You got to testify. Like, this is going to be a first. You're going to host for a little bit.
I will attest that Air Force chow halls are nice. I have been to some where we would have, Friday surf and turf, where it'd be steak and lobster.
So we would do steak and lobster on certain occasions. So like the Marine Corps birthday and the Naval birthday.
Oh, I'm talking
I
deployed.
think that'd be about. This just chaps my hide.
In his episode, what was the Michelin star restaurant you went to while deployed?
Oh no! That was in Riyadh at the USMITM, the U.S. training mission in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and every day we could go eat supper there, and it would be
I joined the wrong branch of service.
Cloth tablecloths, cloth napkins. They had waiters. They'd come serve you. You could have, whatever. It was. The Air Force is pretty prime, but we also had, like, when I was in Saudi, I'd have to fly to Taif, which is on the Red Sea side.
Gotcha.
And that's where the U-2s landed during the mid-90s.
Spy plane, yeah.
Yep. And I was working in support of them out of Dhahran. But the pilots would be like, no, the best chow hall is in Taif. And I got to fly there a couple times with them to collect some intel for them, and best food.
Man, no. So it was so interesting. So it was explained to me. So as far as like the Marine Corps and how chow goes, okay. So the contractors for the Marine Corps, they get paid for each body that walks in. So their job at the end of the day is to feed that body as little as possible, so that way they can make their bank, right? That
profit margin.
That would be the profit margin. But whenever we'd go to like an Air Force chow hall, and I'd say like, yeah, sure. What can I have for breakfast? Like, oh, I'll make you an omelet. Okay, sure, make me an omelet. How many eggs do you want in your omelet?
Yep.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
How many eggs do you want in your omelet? 10.
Yeah.
Because what it is at those contracting points, they get paid per item vended.
Yeah.
So, for instance, if I want a 20-egg omelet, the Air Force or Army or whoever is in charge of that chow hall would then pay for that. Yeah, it doesn't work that way at Marine Corps chow halls at all.
When I was in Turkey, actually wherever I was at, we'd wake up in the morning, go eat breakfast, and we'd have ready-made, we'd say, yeah, we want an omelet, 3-egg omelet. We'd even get like fancy and ask for egg white omelets or ham and cheese.
We could ask for that too, but
But
I need to get a third mic. This is fucking. This is fun as shit. I've got other mics.
But the food was good. I mean, but when I was in Qatar at Camp Doha or at Al Udeid Air Base, we would actually travel to the Army base, which was a few miles down the road, because they had a better chow hall than we did. They had better food, which is surprising, but yeah.
But you get to travel there.
Yeah, we got I was in E7 at the time.
Yeah.
So I was as an E7, you got to go do training, and then you went down to the airport to go pick up people.
Sure.
That were flying in the country or flying out for leave or whatever, that were there for 1-year assignments. And in that, we could go to the Army base, or we could go down to the mall and go get food. We could go eat wherever. Yeah. Air Force life. It was good.
Oh,
I'll give it back to you, Shaggy.
I'm going to swap back.
I need some more vitamins.
Yeah. I got to swap this shit back. Can't forget my vitamins.
Yep. Well, I'm sorry that I missed out on that calling in life. You know?
You took the journey least traveled.
But no, yeah. So it's just one of those.
Traveled.
It was one of those stories. One of the other craziness is so in Fob Edinburgh, out of a storage container, a dude, an Afghani would sell Red Bulls and foot bread. I don't know if you ever came across foot bread.
No, I don't think so.
So let's talk about Afghanistan male hygiene real quick.
Well, this video is probably going to be a two-parter because we're having a lot of fun and we barely got into stuff. And you have some organizations you want to cover and whatnot.
Sure.
So,
I'll be quick about the foot bread then. Okay, so one of the things is, for whatever reason, in their culture, their feet are holy, so to speak. So they don't like to wash their feet.
Oh.
All right. So foot bread is literally what it sounds like. It's bread, and they flip the bread over on this grill with their feet. And yes, you can get foot bread and chips, which is their fried potatoes with like some kind of seasoning on it for $5. And you can hate me all you want for it. It was the most delicious thing I've ever had in country. Some dude's toe fungus.
So, for those keeping up, this
is my fifth.
That's your fifth. I'm on my fourth. I'm almost done with my fourth. And I still have not had enough to not find that nauseating.
I was like, looking back, like, what was I thinking? But man, like, so you get off so we do convoys. The checkpoints were very, very rare. Like, you'd have a checkpoint, and the checkpoint would probably be somewhere around an hour because they had to load up new equipment. So it wasn't uncommon to do a 36-hour convoy.
Your checkpoints are different than ours.
Yeah.
So our checkpoint was just, hey, this. So the military's moving into the 20th century, so they actually have touch screens and shit like the BFTs. We call them Blue Falcon trackers. I think it's called Blue Force trackers.
Blue Force tracker, and it's got a new name now.
And then MTX or MTS. It's another black computer we have.
Sure.
And it's got maps and stuff, but it has a GPS thing attached to the side of it, and it kind of shows you where you're at, but also where the checkpoints are at. So it's like a checkpoint's just something we pass through. It's like, oh, there's a fucking tire out here. That's an identifying marker. We're going to use that as a checkpoint.
No. So, I mean, like, essentially, when we would do, like, shticks from Leatherneck to, like, Edinburgh, there would be somewhere along the way where we'd have to pick up some kind of, I don't know, item or whatever the hell it would be. And that would be our only checkpoint throughout the entire route. And all trucks would pull over to the side for about an hour or two. But still, it's a 36-hour convoy.
On the side of the road in the black zone?
Well, I mean, there is a barrier. There is protection, so to speak. Oh, you're out.
Bullshit. I'll ferment the fucking water myself. I'll change up beer.
But no, like, you get done with, like, your 36-hour convoy, you pull into Fob Edinburgh, and there's a dude in the middle of a storage container selling Red Bulls, cigarettes, dip, and foot bread. And you've been doing nothing but eating MREs for 3 months.
The upside of that is at least it wasn't ass bread. I can't think of anything worse than foot besides ass. It's like even spit bread would probably be an upgrade because at least the bacteria and shit would be burned off.
Yeah.
But dirt has, like, they don't wash it. It's got dust and sand and all sorts of nasty.
Moon dust would get everywhere.
Y'all had that in Afghanistan?
Yeah, we sure did.
We had that shit in Iraq, and what we call by moon dust is it's sand, but as you jump out, the dust kind of rises.
So the density of the sand itself is almost as light as air.
Yeah.
So it settles in all kinds of places, and especially whenever you have like a sandstorm or whatnot, it will stay in the air for days.
I'm trying to remember where. I think it was
So it's kind of like similar like sugar sand here in America,
but
it's even less.
Yeah,
it's even less dense.
It's like I'm trying to remember where it was at in Iraq. I think it was Tikrit. No, maybe it wasn't Tikrit. I feel like it was Tikrit. It wasn't Ramadi. It wasn't Hammer, Fallujah, Al-Taqaddum, Spiker, Mosul. Fuck. Was it Prosperity? No. It wasn't Prosperity. I think it was Tikrit. I can't remember where the fuck is that. I know it was on the east side of Iraq that we went to because we jump out and it's almost like Neil Armstrong jumping out of the fucking rover.
Yeah.
And the dust's coming up. But
yeah, that kind of handles the timeline as far as what I was doing and when I was doing it, so to speak. I got out of the Marine Corps in August of 2023, like I said, via medical separation. And I now work for the city of Jacksonville. And it's been great so far.
You're in government.
I am. I'm in government.
Yeah.
But it's a different kind of government. There was a lot of opportunities as far as to go like government contractor. And I mean,
did you not look into like BlackRock or not BlackRock, Blackwater?
They message me all the time.
Do they?
Yeah. There was an opportunity in Iraq that they messaged me about not too long ago.
And they make a lot of money.
Well, so I'm a dad, and
yeah, you want to be home for your kids.
At the end of the day, I do want to be home, and that was the whole reason why I decided to stay in Jacksonville and pursue the medical separation, was because I wanted to be a present father. So the idea.
Oh, so you didn't fight the med board?
No, not at all. I mean, I could have, and then I could have ran like a subpar physical fitness test, combat fitness test. But at the end of the day, it was more along the lines of, I have an opportunity to be a present father and to have something from the Marine Corps. Because a lot of guys will get out and like they don't get a severance. They don't get a retirement. Really all they do is get a
fed
VA
to the
check.
wolves.
Exactly. And I had the opportunity for the Marine Corps to give me something back. Of course I took it. Yeah, 100%.
So we've gotten off of your military career, which that's fine. We're getting stories about your life and cool shit that happened. But this video has gotten kind of long. I'm going to do it as a 2-parter, so feel free. We can go more in depth and stuff because I know you got certain organizations you want to cover.
Yeah.
How many organizations do you want to cover?
So I don't want to get too far into the actual organizations themselves. One I'll talk about by name, and that's Vets on Tap. So one of the hardest thing for veterans is, at least I think one of the hardest thing for veterans is just making a resume, period. So I joined when I was 19, turned 20 in boot camp, and I never had to make a resume. And so here I am getting out of the Marine Corps. I'm 33 years old. I've got a college degree. I got a bachelor's. I've got all this military experience. How do I put that into a resume? Because when I put in for, like, let's say, because at the time I had a business degree, and let's say I wanted to put in for like some kind of managerial business degree. How am I going to put led 100 troops at some point or another through fire and maneuver and teams contact and all? You can't put that on a resume.
Well, military nomenclature and civilian nomenclature is very different.
Right. So one of the cool things was there was this organization called Vets on Tap. We have it in Jacksonville. I know they're moving all over the place. And
Tap reminds me of beer.
And what it is it's veterans and business owners that want to hire veterans. We all meet up at local breweries in Jacksonville. I know they got them in some other major cities. I think Savannah is one of them. Don't quote me on it. Yeah, Savannah, Georgia. And what it is we go round robin, round the horn, and I say, like, hey, like, my name's Taylor Elders. I did X, Y, and Z in the Marine Corps for a certain amount of years. I have a degree in this. I'm looking for a job in this. And then the recruiters will be like, hey, my name is so-and-so. I work in this field. I'm looking for this position.
Are they vets as well? Are the recruiters?
Some of them are. Some aren't.
So but you'll have non-vet recruiters.
Correct. So, like, my first job out of the Marine Corps, I was in the finance world for New York Life. And one of the guys that was at Vets on Tap, his name was Michael Armstrong. And he's a Navy vet. And so we got to talking, made fast friends with him. And lo and behold, it led for me to have a job waiting for me the day that I got out of the Marine Corps. Did all the paperwork, even got some time to go work that job while I was still in the Marine Corps and kind of learn a little bit. And it worked out perfectly.
So you weren't even out of the Marine Corps. So they helped you with the transition.
Brother, I wasn't even out of the Marine Corps, and I was selling life insurance.
Well, the transition from all the vets that I've interviewed and being at the VFW, the American Legion, and then also all the Facebook. So I'm a part of Disgruntled Veterans.
I am too. Yep.
Disgruntled Underground, Crusty Pissed Off Veteran, Salty Soldier. The big problem veterans are having. Yes, there's veteran homelessness. Yes, there's veteran suicide. But for those that aren't in those classifications, it's like a big majority is they have a huge problem transitioning because they're told when to sleep, when to eat, when to shit and piss.
Yeah.
It's you're going from being told how your life is going to work to having control over it. Essentially, the metaphorical handcuffs are off. You're released back into the civilian world. It's like, well, now how do I take Part A, which is the military experience, to Part B, which is civilian? Because you can't yell at people. And it was a problem for me too. Whenever I first boarded my first flight, non-military, I had to fight the urge to hurry up, waiting on you, hurry up, waiting on, because civilians are sitting there. They're not sitting down and putting their luggage up. The military, you're trained. You get to your fucking seat. You sit down with your luggage. You'll pass your luggage to the guy on the aisle, and the guy on the aisle will put it up for you. It's like everything is so organized.
It's efficient.
Yes.
It's efficient.
Where civilians, it's like, oh, I'm in row 1. I'm going to stop right here and start putting my stuff up. And it's like, motherfucker, there's like 36 other rows of people trying to get to shit. And it's learning how to use words differently. So it's like, hey, fucktard, what's wrong with you? To like, hey, we have a problem with this. Can you correct it? Or it's that language barrier. Even though it's both English, you have military English and civilian English, and they butt heads a lot.
Well, so in the Marine Corps, and I know in the Navy as well, because we utilize the Navy program, we have what's called SEPs and TAPs. And who knows, maybe the name has changed. And maybe the name has changed by now. It's been over a year since I've gone to it. But it's a 5-day course. And what they try to do is they try to cram a whole bunch of information, like as far as what your veteran benefits will look like, how you're going to do the paperwork, how you're going to apply for jobs, and things of that. And they try to do it all in 5 days. I cannot, for the world of me, I will never be able to tell you how to live the rest of your life in 5 days. It's impossible. And what's really important about going forward with that is, as veterans, we have to network. And as veterans, we don't need to burn bridges. And so what I utilized was LinkedIn, because LinkedIn has a year, you can get their premium service for a year for free if you're a veteran. And so what's great is like you can, on LinkedIn, like you can add like your old CO, your old battalion commander, or your brigade commander, is general and brigade. Or
so we have obviously squad, platoon, company, battalion, brigade, division, and then you have sometimes corps,
right?
Or as you get closer to the top, it kind of changes.
So that's what I would do is I would make a LinkedIn, and I'd start. It's essentially like a professional Facebook, where I would start adding people that I used to work with from back in the day. And then there was this other group called Operation New Uniform, and they've got one in Tampa, they've got one in Jacksonville. It's national.
It's national.
It's national, so you should be able to find it. And what they do is they do a 2-week course. Whether or not you are active duty veteran of 10 years, you can go sign up for this course, and they will teach you how to make a resume. They will teach you all about your benefits. And I can tell you this, as far as when I was working for the financial group that I was working for, we would hire directly out of that program. So like when they would do their graduation ceremony, we would get invited, and we would go and we would literally solicit new employees from this graduation ceremony.
Well, the Army has a program like that. It's, as we out-process, like whenever I was med-boarded, we had to out-process certain areas. So you had to clear CIF and all sorts of stuff, right? So CIF is Central Issue Facilities, where you get all your gear and stuff from.
CIF.
Yep. Well, part of the out processing was learning to fill out a resume. And if you stay after class, it's like an hour class for a fucking stamp. It's like you cleared it.
Yeah, and I've done the classes too. But I can tell you this, when it came time for me to make a resume, I still had no idea what I was doing. Because what they want you to do is they want you to make this giant master resume, and then they want you to cut it and kind of detail it for every job that comes up that you might be interested in. So like you had
Ours is different.
Yeah, see, exactly.
Ours is based on MOS. So you'd sit down with a person, and they'd be like, okay, what was your MOS? It's like, well, truck driver. It's like, okay, you were a motor transport operator. You moved essential cargo from multiple destinations.
Right, you were a logistics professional.
You drove so many miles without an accident, stuff like that.
Yeah. So it was really hard for me, like, for instance, to take my communication technician experience and then say, like, hey, I want to be a financial advisor.
Yeah, that's
quite a leap kind of connection is. Because, like, you, for, like, motor transport operator, like, yeah, you probably have a flawless resume to go be a truck driver, drive semis or whatever the case may be. That wasn't the case. So, like, with this program, okay, Operation New Uniform, they kind of bridge that gap, so to speak. Because I hear the story, especially from a lot of veterans that were like MPs or grunts, like, man, the only thing I'm ever going to be able to do is
cop,
security or a cop. Like, no, there's other things that we can pick up on from your experience and put in your resume. And like I said, especially with Operation New Uniform graduates, they kind of curtailed that. So
well, even with you having an MOS, it's like, okay, I'm a truck driver. Okay, I didn't just drive trucks. I had to do basic inventory. I had to make sure that the supply and stuff was there. It's like, okay, this vehicle's supposed to have 4 chains. So you're dealing with inventorying. Guess what? That's not a truck driver thing.
Quality assurance.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of language is something that I learned through the program.
But also, it's like, okay, I had to make sure that the tires weren't flat. I also had to do anything 10 level with the vehicle. So I also had some mechanics knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I replaced air filters, tires, grease. I replaced hubs, stuff like that. It's like, okay, well, you went from a truck driver to a mechanic, or you went from a truck driver to supply because I transported supplies. I had to upload and download, and it's bridging and stuff.
I gotcha. Yeah. And then on top of that, probably the other piece of the puzzle I ended up using was my local VFW chapter. So I am on the board for this VFW chapter that we're standing up here shortly. And the thing is that I'm not a Jacksonville native. Okay, I'm a Sebring, Florida native. I don't know anybody in Jacksonville other than who I got to talk to for the 3 years that I was living there. And when there was a certain job opening for the city, in the VFW chapter, like, we had employees that worked for the city, and I could use them as references. So my biggest advice for veterans is, one, you need a network. I know it's going to be extremely uncomfortable because we're always taught that, Big Brother is always watching, got to be vigilant. You need to get out of that comfort zone and you need to network a little bit. I'm not saying have an Instagram, not saying have a Facebook, but at the very least a LinkedIn, so that way people can contact you and just be able to understand what you bring to the table. And on top of that, put yourself out there in these veteran organizations. Okay. So
you'll find the camaraderie that you've lost.
For sure. The camaraderie for sure. But, like, for instance, I can tell you this right now, if someone was to talk to me about VA benefits, okay, how would they find me? Well, you can either find me on LinkedIn, you can find me at my VFW, and I'll be more than happy to talk to you. There's other guys at the VFW.
Are you a VSO?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah. There's other guys at the VFW that have gone through the same rigmaroles that you have as far as getting your benefits. For instance, I was going to purchase a house a couple weeks ago, and I had no idea that based off my VA percentage, I get a certain tax credit towards the purchase of a home, which could save me $300-400 on my mortgage.
It also saves you with down payment.
But see, I didn't know any of this until I started talking to other veterans, until I started getting in other veteran groups. So it's advantageous for us as veterans to get out there and be around other veterans. Because at the end of the day, sure, you can sit on a 1-800 number and try to get help, whether it's the VA or whatever kind of government agency that you're trying to deal with. But at the end of the day, I mean, I'm going to go straight to the scuttlebutt. I'm going to go straight to the smoke pit, and I'm going to go get my information that way.
We are social creatures. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs, one of them is we need social interaction. That is on par with shelter. That is on par with food and water. We are social beings. We need social interaction. And there's no one that understands a veteran more than another veteran. Whether it's cross-branch, right? So cross-service, even on the national level, I've got more in common with an Australian soldier than I do with a New York attorney. Yeah, we both may be American, but me and that Australian soldier would understand more of what each other do than I would from someone in New York.
Which, by the way, I was in Afghanistan for the Jubilee celebration for Queen Elizabeth.
Oh.
So when she celebrated 60 years on the throne. Wow.
I don't think that record's ever going to get broken.
Well, it was a huge party between, so you had the Aussies there, and we had the Brits there at Leatherneck. It was a huge blowout, for some girl getting 60 years on the throne, which it's no longer Big Ben now. Now it's the Elizabeth Tower?
I didn't even know they changed it.
Yeah, they changed the name of it to Elizabeth Tower.
I've dealt with the British and the Aussies, right? The Aussies were they were the coolest other nation I've ever worked with.
Who goes to combat in shorts? Who goes to combat in shorts? I want their uniform so bad.
So the uniform that I saw them in was like the clown polka dot shit.
Oh, God.
I never saw them in shorts.
Now, these boys would be in a green beret, and, they got the blouse or top or whatever, and then they got no shit combat shorts.
The one I saw was almost a white. Like that, it was so tan that it was white, and it had brown spots.
We call them Mickey Mouses.
Mickey Mouses?
Because sometimes the spots would line up like ears and a face. So
man. Yeah.
But the Aussies were some of the coolest fucking people I've ever dealt with compared to the Brits, the Germans.
Yeah.
I forget who else I worked with. I think the Italians were there. But El Salvador was there. Yeah, El Salvador was there.
Gotcha.
But yeah, the Aussies were cool as shit. But what made you... So you said you were med boarded, so you didn't have a choice in getting out. They were forcing you to get out.
So, I mean, I had the option of, like I said before, kind of running a subpar physical fitness test or combat fitness test.
Well, you were one rank away from not really needing to take a physical test.
Well, no, not at all. And it was, at the end of the day, hey, I could run subpar, and then I could leave Jacksonville, and... because I was up for an overseas deployment. I hadn't been deployed overseas in quite a while, so I was up for going to Japan, Okinawa, or wherever the Marine Corps wanted to put me. But at the time,
Need more vitamins?
I think that's my last vitamin.
It is. I supply free beverages to every guest that comes on, and he has utilized that opportunity. All of them. I think you're the first one to complete all 6.
You're welcome.
He's repping the Marine Corps.
But
I'm right behind you with 5.
But so it kind of came down to a choice for me as to, all right, well, I can run subpar for the Marine Corps, and I could do another 7, or I could be a present father. And
fatherhood always takes priority.
I would agree, and that's what I ended up doing. And I'm not going to lie, I like to think I'm much more successful out of the Marine Corps than I was in. As far as us veterans, there's a lot of rights and a lot of privileges that we get. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think for a second that what I've been through and what I've dealt with you could ever put a dollar amount on what I should be getting for that kind of compensation. But what I will say is that I live a very comfortable lifestyle, okay, based off of my experience in the Marine Corps and the compensation that I received from it.
Did they have you listed as IU?
Not that I'm aware of.
IU, for those watching, is individual unemployability, and then you have permanent and total. So usually whenever you go into the military, they make sure to know everything about you medically. They look inside your booty hole. They grab the boys. They do everything. If you're a male, you know what I'm talking about. For a female, they will see what your cervix looks like. So they do everything medically to see exactly what kind of product they're getting. Whenever you get out, you do a very similar process because the government will pay you based on how broken you are compared to how broken you were whenever you got in. Permanent and total just means, hey, yeah, you're fucked up and it's permanent.
So for me, so the VA, they do a percentage, 1 to 100%. So I have what's called a 70% permanent disability. And then for the majority of the other stuff, like those things are still, they're not permanent. I think I have to go before I have to get another evaluation in 2 years, I think is what it is. But right now I'm sitting at 100% VA disability. Employable.
Well, whenever you're listed IU, you're only allowed to do side jobs for like, I think it's $12,000.
Correct. Yeah. So like there's 100% disabled, employable and unemployable. Whereas if you do unemployable, they do give you a little bit of extra change, and you are able to pull Social Security. I think that's another big thing.
You get Social Security disability to help supplement stuff, but also if you can get a part-time job or I don't think if a full-time job will pay you less than $12,000. Like $12,000 is around the cap.
Yeah.
But
so like I said, like for me, with the 100% employable disability, and then on top of me being able to work, and on top of, so like for a medical separation, they give a severance check versus for a medical retirement, they give you a pension. I got a pretty hefty severance check that paid off all my debt, and I'm able to afford a really, really nice lifestyle for my sons and I. So it worked out for me.
I received the pension because they had me listed as IU.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm locked in. My income will never go down, but it'll also never really go up. Unless the economy is super fucking bad.
Right. I mean, it will go up with like inflation and things like that.
But it doesn't even cover prior to that.
I get it.
But it is what it is. That's why I do a lot of this. All this is volunteer. So I don't actually make any money off of this. All proceeds that will come off this, which I haven't seen any yet, except for the Rotary Club in Lake Placid actually donated $200.
Oh, cool.
That I still have that. It's sitting in the company coffers.
Yeah, go Green Dragons, right?
Well, I'm going to use that $200 to pay for veteran burials. That's what all the proceeds from this is going to go to. Is eventually, this is going to be a charity where my goal is to hit the 100%. So if you follow Charity Navigator and stuff like that, It tells you how much of a dollar goes to the actual cause. So the one I saw the most was the Disabled American Veterans. 98 cents out of the dollar goes to the cause.
Oh, wow.
I want to beat that. I want 100% of every bit of money that this channel will make. I want 100% of that to go to veteran burials, because the VA will cover a veteran burial inside a veteran or national cemetery. So here in Florida, it's Sarasota. If you're a veteran, they will cover gate to grave. So the moment you enter the gate to the funeral home, everything will be covered.
Yeah, one of the saddest experiences I've ever had. So when I was I&I, Inspector Instructor, Training Reservists, one of the responsibilities for the Marine Corps is to do veteran burials. So like you've got your flag folder, you've got your presenter, you've got your bugle player.
Yeah.
I used to do that for 3 years.
Did you actually learn the bugle, or did you have the radio?
No, man, you get the microphone on the end of it. And the bugle has no valves, so there's no finger play. But you start off as a bugle player, and then you go up to a flag folder, and then from a flag folder, then you become a presenter. So I ended up staying a presenter for a while. And probably one of the saddest things that I ever got to witness was I was at the Fort Polk Veteran Cemetery. A gentleman, his father died. Okay. And he had no money, no anything to bury him, but Fort Polk Cemetery was able to inter his father, and found out that he was a Marine, and we were able to come down there and play taps for his father. Now, don't get me wrong; it was a sad experience because at the end of the day,
you lost a Marine.
Well, I mean, we lost a Marine, but it was just him. It was just the son. It was just the funeral director, and it was 3 Marines.
That's one reason I do what I do. So I haven't given this channel any of the backstory on why I created this. Maybe I'll do a video on it one day. Yeah. But needless to say, my family went through some troubles with a veteran. It was my cousin who died young due to a drunk driver. No one helped us. And the cost incurred was a marriage, thousands of dollars, and another one of my cousins' sobriety, depression. It was very hard on our family. So I didn't want anybody else to experience that. So I decided to create this with the VFW, hearing the tales of all these old Vietnam vets and Gulf War vets, and even us GWAT vets. Like, this is something that a lot of people don't experience. The shenanigans we do, the stories that we do, or that we tell. A lot of people don't experience this. So I want to put this all out there, and I want to take any sort of ad revenue made off of this. I want to make sure 100% of it goes to help cover on the veterans to be buried, not just inside national cemeteries. Because, yes, there's still costs incurred. You got to pay. Funeral home expenses aren't covered, right? Yeah. If you're buried outside of a national cemetery, guess what? Nothing's really covered. They'll cover a headstone. They'll give you a flag over the coffin. They'll give you an honor guard and a presidential letter. But it's around $14,000 on average to bury somebody. That's a lot of money for a family, especially us younger vets who we have people dying left and right to suicide. We got homeless vets that the family don't claim or what have you. I want to be able to help cover down on a lot of that shit. That's the whole reason I started this.
Gotcha. And
it's because it's personal to me. They say a lot of people don't partake in charities unless it affected them in some way. That's true. I will say that I started this because this affected my family personally, and I think it's something that needs to be covered. And I appreciate every veteran that comes on and shares their story, because that gives me one more step on the ladder to reaching my goal. Like Paul Manrique was on earlier. He's filling in his cameraman for the day. He was episode 1, and what a lot of people don't know is we had to film that multiple times just to get it right. Mm-hmm. And he stuck through it, and he believes in what I'm doing. He's actually a great friend of mine, and I appreciate that he did that for me. And I appreciate every veteran that's come on since. My brothers and sisters, I appreciate everything y'all have done for me. And I'd like to thank you for coming on. Is there anything you'd like to pass on to the next generation of Marines or soldiers, airmen, cadets, sailors?
Well, I can tell you this, probably the biggest lesson I ever learned was from a soldier. His name was Josh Jetton. I went to high school with him. We graduated together. And we both enlisted in the military about the same time, except when I was going through school, he paid the ultimate price in Afghanistan. At the time, his wife was pregnant with twins, and he never got to meet his children. So probably the lesson that I would be telling people that want to get into this: time is precious. Time is extremely precious. The other thing is that I want you to understand that, sure, boot camp and the rigors and everything you have to go through to join seems insurmountable, but people lesser than you have been able to do it.
Your military brothers and sisters will help you through it.
Absolutely. You know, at one point in boot camp, I thought I'm never going to be able to get through this. But I remembered that there was people that had come before me, and I thought to myself, they've been able to do it. Marines before me have been able to do this. I can do this.
You want to put his name and rank, and I'll put a video up here in memorial. Name and rank?
Mm-hmm. PFC Joshua Jetton. Yes.
Private First Class Joshua Jetton.
And he ended up passing in Afghanistan summer of 2011.
Is there anything you want the civilian populace to understand that they misconstrue a lot?
It's hard for me to accept when you say thank you for your service.
That is also true. Whenever I was in uniform getting stopped at the airport, it's like I have a flight to catch and everybody wants to stop and say thank you. We are appreciative of that. And we don't mean to blow you off or anything, but we are trying to get to our next flight, to get to our next duty station or deployment or what have you. Thank y'all for saying thank you.
We appreciate your appreciation.
We appreciate if we ever come off as not necessarily blowing you off. It's just we have a mission to attend to, and we don't mean to come off as rude. But besides that, thanks for coming on. First Marine, you definitely proved yourself in terms of drinking. I stopped drinking that way, prior Marine, first Marine on. I wanted to make sure that y'all were represented properly, so I didn't keep up. I toned down my drinking, that way y'all had that image.
Well, no worries. I mean, it's only 1 o'clock, and we're only 6 in, right?
But thanks for watching.